Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, get the low one.
I did that last week, and Rylan joined in with me, so I thought that was going to become like our normal intro to the show, where I start and everyone else just joins in, like
at the end.
Hello, hello, hello.
My bad.
That's all right.
I was focusing on this.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. Welcome, episode 7 of the Man They Remember podcast. Excited to be coming to you past the hump of number 6, and we're in it for the long haul now.
Still in.
There's no going back. This is like lifelong commitment. It's just like once you get past episode 6, you're in it for good.
Retire out of this thing.
But this is the Man They Remember podcast, and we're talking about how to be the kind of man they'll remember when you're gone, men of legacy. And got a couple of options for you, not only just listening to the podcast, but you can go to join our Facebook group, facebook.com/Man They Remember. And in that group, we're calling it the Man They Remember Legacy Club, MTR Legacy Club.
Oh.
So it's where we're encouraging one another to be a legacy, leave a legacy. In a few weeks, once we get through these first 7 core virtues that we think of as being crucial to being a man, we'll start mixing things up a little bit. And one of the things we'll do is ask guys to bring in pictures of men who have left a legacy in their lives, and we'll start talking and telling the stories of some of these men, grandfathers, uncles, things like that, fathers that we want to kind of honor and just kind of share their story about how they impacted our lives. So we'll be bringing some of those in the near future, so be thinking about that.
Okay.
And listeners can do the same thing. So we're going to be asking our listening audience, if you have a man that you would like to honor and the legacy that they left, to send us a picture. And you can send that to david@mantheyremember.com, david@mantheyremember.com, and we'll send us a picture and then send us a write-up, a couple paragraphs about who they were and how they impacted your life, and we'll work those in to the podcast in future episodes. So a way for you to start contributing to the legacy that you're leaving in other men's lives. But join that group, like the Facebook page, subscribe, all of those things. Leave a review. We've got a review here we're going to read at the end of the podcast that Russ left on the iTunes. On the iTunes. The interwebs and the iTunes. I really make myself sound old. So those are a few things right off the bat that we want to remind you of, and we'll remind you of a few more things at the end. Of course, at the end of the podcast, we'll be doing our closing ceremonies. So if you guys have something you want to kind of give an award to, I've got a few awards to give out this week. So if you've got something that, a product, a person, something that either legitimately is a good thing that you want to recognize or just have fun, like something you want to make fun of, you can do that too. That's what I'm doing in mine today. Mine are all not serious. They're all making fun of things that people have done.
Oh, bringing back your award ceremony that you did at the...
Yeah, So, all right. So sitting at the table with us this week, to my right, your left, is Russ, the Russ Bus Manning. How you doing, Russ?
I'm well. Thanks.
Everyone's on the Russ Bus. We got to get a sound effect for that one, like
It's a train,
Russ Bus.
But the actual
that came
horn
from
one.
the Strength Finders. Actually, I was one of my highest strengths in the Strength Finders was to be an includer, meaning that nobody is uninvited to whatever we do. Like if we have some kind of house thing or people are coming over, hey, if we're going to have 2, let's have 20, so it's hard for me to say no to people. So that was, my wife called it the Russ Bus.
The Russ Bus.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Oprah, you get a car? That's what it's like for coming over. You get to come over.
So that's how that came about.
And then first to my left is Ron. We haven't come up with the nickname yet, Reyes.
Is that the nickname now?
Railroad.
Very popular right now.
RR.
Yes. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I was getting over a cold last week.
Yeah. We missed you last week.
Yeah.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And then Rylan Rye Guy Manning is with us as usual.
Manning.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being there faithfully.
He fortunately recovered from his bachelor party this weekend, so it's good to have him back.
Tell us about this bachelor party. I heard a little bit about it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We went paintballing and then went back to a buddy of mine's house for like a nice poker night. Had some pizza, hung out. But when we were paintballing, we got the opportunity to have the bachelor run a gauntlet. And
the gauntlet.
Which, if you guys don't know what a gauntlet is, means we all got to line up in a row, and he had to run down the pathway while we all just took shots at him. He had no gun to defend himself with. He just had to run from one side.
And he probably wouldn't want to be shooting anyway. You're just trying to...
No, yeah, he just want to get from one side to the other. He even said, he's like, I thought about stopping. He was like, but I stopped myself from stopping. I'm like, it's a good call. But the
gauntlet is what some people call the greeting ministry at some churches.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
Yeah. You have to run the gauntlet to get in.
The staff gave us the choice of saying, okay, you guys can either do this, just the 6 of you guys that are here shooting at him, or we can do all of open play, which is like 50 people. And we left it up to him. We're like, we're not going to pressure you. That's a lot of people shooting at you, right? So he's like, that's a lot of welts. He's like, oh, I'm just going to do the 6 of you. We're like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And then this lady walks over and goes, hey, my 16-year-old daughter has run the gauntlet with all of open play a couple times. And she didn't even cry after. Like, she actually really enjoyed it. He's like, oh, dang it. Okay, fine.
Got sissied into it.
I'll run the gauntlet with all 50 people. And he ran through very quickly, and his whole left side of his body was just covered with welts.
Yeah.
And he's skinny too, so yeah, if he'd been a bigger guy, it'd been really hard.
And he was a ways away. It wasn't like he's close, but
do you have the video? Can you play the audio? Like put it into your microphone, and so we can hear the
you can hear
shots.
How many shots?
I hear him screaming like a girl.
Give me 1 second.
No, we can reenact it.
I've never been paintballing. I've never done it.
It's a lot of fun. So here
have you guys all done it?
I've been a couple times.
Yeah,
I've done it.
So you can't see him, otherwise I'll show the video, but you can hear how many paintballs are being fired at the 7 seconds that he was running through.
That's a lot of welts.
Sounds like hail coming down.
No.
It does.
So stop shooting at the end was the referee, because he got to
but
the
it's
other
funnier
side.
if it's him yelling.
I did accidentally shoot the referee a couple times because he stopped right next to him, and I pulled the trigger a few more times after that. But
oh, that's funny.
That's crazy.
He didn't cry, did he?
no, he didn't cry.
Yeah. So
What a man to remember.
Yeah, my one and only paintball thing was at that Camp Tadmore that we took Trey to that one time.
Do they do?
Yeah, and we thought, oh, this will be fun. We came looking like this, shorts and t-shirts.
Oh, that's a mistake.
And showed up, and all these guys are in their masks, and I go, oh. I had never been paintballing, and I go, I think
snowsuit, I guess, is what you need to wear.
Dressed for
So
this.
it's like I just wore I wore 2 pairs of sweats and then a t-shirt and like a really light sweatshirt, just enough so it doesn't hit skin.
Okay.
It stings. Don't get me wrong, it stings, right? But it was hot enough where if you were wearing more than that, you were sweating. But one of my friends, he was just wearing a short sleeve t-shirt, and he knew, right? He's been paintballing before, he knew, but. He has a pretty high pain tolerance, and he didn't do too bad. But like he was a zombie once, so it was like everybody against 2 of my friends, and which I think I would have rather run the gauntlet than be the zombie, because everyone's like literally directly shooting at you the entire time. But he had a big welt round in his neck that was bleeding.
So why do we do this? Why is this a thing?
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It really is.
Is it like the fear and the adrenaline or something? Is that what it is? Or
I mean, at least from like a video game player where you play like a lot of war games.
Okay.
Being able to like hang out with your friends and kind of reenact that in person, where you're like actually able to kind of have strategy of where they get around, laying down cover fire to get your friend from one spot to the other, and kind of swarming the other team, and actually using like strategy to get there is a lot of fun.
Okay. I've never played those video games either.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Are you're in some video games, right? You were for a while.
Some video games. Now I find myself more like kind of trying to find a video game that me and the boys can play.
Yeah.
The boys being my 2 sons. Mm-hmm. Nothing too...
Not me and the boys.
Me and the boys, yeah. And then the good old boys. Yeah, no, the trick is with like shooters has always been, for us, it's been like, it can't be too
blood and gore.
Too blood and gore. It can't be too, I mean, I know Call of Duty is huge and but some of it is like, it's pretty extreme, like, running around killing innocent people or whatever it is. So, we kind of get away with Destiny.
I was gonna say Destiny's a good one for that.
Because you're shooting aliens.
There's really no blood or anything in that one.
Right. I mean, if it is, it's purple or green. I don't, but that's kind of a fine line. I mean, I think once, intergalactic, opens up,
Yeah.
that'll be kind of off the list then. So
Well,
it's offensive to
I was listening to a book not that long ago. I can't remember what it was called, but I listen to a lot of books. I'm a good listener. I'm a slow reader, but I'm a good listener. So, but they were talking about the more realistic the video game is, actually, the more potentially damaging it can be to boys' brains, and that if it's more, I guess fake fiction. If you can, if you're killing fictional things, it can be less devastating to the brain. So that's interesting. I don't know.
It's always a hard one to say because there's a lot of. Most boys now have played pretty violent video games, and
it's the challenge.
Yeah,
you gotta taper it off.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to talk about video games some point down the future. Probably kind of get into
uninvite me. I didn't play many video games.
No, Paul.
He was that guy running into the wall the whole time.
Is really good. Yeah,
they love to invite dad to play video games because then
they've got someone to shoot,
wipe me out. Hey, Dad, let's play this one.
Dad, run out there. Run out there.
It's like that episode of The Office where they're playing.
Yeah, it's exactly what that was. Yep, 100%.
And what's Karen's just sitting there waiting for Jim to turn around.
Pop!
Bam!
Have to watch Office.
You haven't watched The Office?
I have watched The Office, but probably only like the first season.
Yeah, this was third season, I think. Second or third season, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
second or third. I want to say third, but I'm not entirely sure.
24
seasons. Me and Dave will probably quote that quite a bit every once in a while. So.
Yeah, we're big on The Office. We watched it way too many times. You guys play video games. I just rewatched The Office. And
I've done both.
That's right.
So cool. Well, so we're talking about being helpful today. This is our sixth, I think, virtue, if I remember. And next week we'll be talking about ham. That's the one everyone remembers. Ironically enough, it's the one that doesn't mean anything, but that's the one people remember of our seven virtues. So we'll be talking about ham and what that means. Ham. But today is helpful, and I've got a story about Norman Schwarzkopf to get us started.
Storm and Norman.
Is that his nickname? Storm and Norman?
It was, actually.
See, everybody's got a nickname. We got to come up with some good nicknames here. My boss, one of my first bosses when I delivered pizzas, he always called me Super Dave. But no one else called me that. So I don't think it was a legit nickname. It's just he nicknamed everyone, and that was what he called me. But no one else called me that. So
that's great.
Didn't feel like a nickname because one of the guys' names was Tony, but I didn't know that until years later because we always called him Cardo, and the restaurant was named Cardo's Pizza, and we just called him Cardo. Like for some reason, this guy was the epitome of what it meant to be a Cardo's employee. So I don't even know why we called him Cardo.
Nice.
Yeah, but it turned out later his name's Tony.
My name's really not Cardo.
So really quickly on the side of nicknames, I don't tell very many people this because it's not a nickname I want to stick ever again.
Here we go.
Oh, I know this one. Yeah.
But so at Fulcrum, I worked at Fulcrum for 3 years, right? And like the first week I was there, so I worked in like this small booth, probably smaller than like a little bit bigger than this table. Quite a bit bigger than this table, probably 3 of these tables, but not a huge room, right? You're in like a full respirator, and you got like a sanders and grinders and all that stuff, and full netting, and you have to wear so it's not a very comfortable spot, right? I was in there working, and this guy walks by, and all of a sudden, like I come out later, and he's like, hey, we gave you a nickname. I'm like, what's the nickname? he's like Tugboat. I'm like, Tugboat. Why? he's like, I don't know. I just kind of saw you in there, like just pushing along. And I was like, Tugboat. That name stuck for all 3 years. There was people there that I worked with for 3 years that didn't know my actual name. Like I moved into like a shipping department, right? And people would come in to drop off deliveries, and they would all yell like Tuggy from like really far. Like there were so many different variations of it, and I'm like, they don't know who that is. But yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
I've been careful not to use that nickname at work for you.
Yeah,
because I know you'd be labeled hard.
Yeah, that's frustrating when that happens.
It really doesn't. I don't get bugged by nicknames too much, but nor do I want it to stick outside. So I worked with my best friend Ryan for a couple of years, and he accidentally called me it once, and I was like, don't
do that.
Not outside.
Nope. All right, so here's Storm and Norman Schwarzkopf. So let's see here. the 1st Battalion of the 6th Infantry, known as the worst of the 6th. So he turned around that battalion and it was in shambles. It went from laughingstock to effective fighting force and was selected to perform a more difficult mission. That turned out to be an assignment to what Schwarzkopf described as a horrible, malignant place called the, I'm not going to say this right, Batagan, Batangan Peninsula. Let's see, this is in... Where is this? I don't know. Persian Gulf War, maybe. I don't know if that's right, but
yeah, I think it was the Gulf War that he was the main commander over there.
Well, the area had been fought over for 30 years, was covered with mines and booby traps, and was the site of numerous weekly casualties from those devices. Schwarzkopf made the best of a bad situation. He introduced procedures to greatly reduce casualties, and whenever a soldier was injured by a mine, he flew out to check on the man, had him evacuated using his chopper, and talked to the other men to boost their morale. On May 28, 1970, a man was injured by a mine, and Schwarzkopf flew to the man's location. While the helicopter was evacuating the injured soldier, another soldier stepped on a mine, severely injuring his leg. The man thrashed around on the ground, screaming and wailing. That's when everyone realized that the first mine hadn't been a lone booby trap. They were all standing in the middle of a minefield. Schwarzkopf believed the injured man could survive and even keep his leg, but only if he stopped flailing around. There was only one thing he could do. He had to go after the man and immobilize him. Schwarzkopf wrote, "I started through the minefield, one slow step at a time, staring at the ground, looking for the telltale bumps, little prongs sticking up out of the dirt. My knees were shaking so hard that each time I took a step, I had to grab my leg and steady it with both hands before I could take another. It seemed like 1,000 years before I reached the kid." The 240-pound Schwarzkopf, who had been a wrestler at West Point, then pinned the wounded man and calmed him down. It saved his life. And with the help of an engineer team, Schwarzkopf got him and the others out of the minefield. The quality that Schwarzkopf displayed that day could be described as heroism, courage, or even foolhardiness, but I think the word that best describes it is servanthood. On that day in May, the only way he could be effective as a leader was to serve the soldier who was in trouble.
Wow.
Wow.
So being helpful, servant-hearted, that's kind of what we're talking about. What are your initial thoughts on the topic or that story as we get started?
Obviously 70 was Vietnam, not, the Persian Gulf War, but just just to put your life on the line for, one of your soldiers, really shows an incredible, those are the kind of people that, you will forever want to work for,
right,
or want to be, as mentors in your life or whatever, so those guys that would either risk their, their life or their reputation, or, just step into, I've had, nothing like that, obviously, but I've had, bosses like that who will, step into the punch or step into, hey, we've got a problem. Let's work this together. Let me get dirty with you,
right,
and let me get out on the floor with you. That means a lot, when for me, when your boss will step out there and step away and really want to try to help and authentically want to jump in. So
right,
obviously that, for him to do that, as a commanding officer, to step that way to save another soldier's life had to have been a huge, people just looking at that, that story probably spread
right
everywhere that he was that kind of a leader.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You think, well, of course that's what a good leader would do.
Yeah.
A good leader should put their life on the line, but then at the same time, we all know a lot of people who've been in leadership positions, maybe worked for some of them, or maybe even guys in the Army worked for generals who, instead of seeing their job as being chief servant, being there to serve people, it's like, well, I'm high up in command. I don't have to do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a perfect example of, as far as being helpful, is humility. Because you do have leaders that are out there that are like, hey, you go in, take care of this. I'm too important. And I think that was really what that story kind of exemplified, of just, hey, I'm just another human being out here with you. I need to get out there. I need to help. And you just don't take yourself that seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a hard part too, right, for like men in today's society to really step up and be that leader or servant leader or helpful is we get put in like leadership roles without doing anything to actually earn the leadership.
Right.
And I mean that in a lot of sense, in like mostly the job sense, where we work really hard in the company to get moved up in the company, but it doesn't necessarily make us leaders. A lot of times our leaders, our bosses, our people that are in charge of us are more looking to get their next promotion than they are to actually be like, hey, I am your supervisor. I am supposed to have your back as well as my own. And we just don't have that a lot these days because we have positional leaders where they are put there, but they haven't necessarily done anything to earn the leadership or the respect of the people following them to be a leader.
Right. And the companies don't have any kind of training to equip you with the skills you need to actually be a leader at that next level.
Yep.
Right. I mean, like you might be a good worker. You work your way through a level, through the first level, and they want to reward you with a promotion, and they put you up to another level where you're all of a sudden over people, but they don't give you any training on how to lead those people.
Yep.
And so then all you know how to do is what you did to get to the first, through the first level into the second level, which is just, working hard to get yourself advanced, right?
100%.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I think of it, the reason we did this podcast obviously is for men that, trying to pinpoint and help men to be, better fathers, better husbands, better, obviously better workers. But I think that, our biggest job, I feel like, is to be, is to help men be better fathers and better husbands, right? And so, a story like that, obviously in the workplace is awesome, but if we can, translate that a little bit to, being a dad that comes back, that, just that comes back and does that for their son or daughter, right? Is there, right? Is kind of steps into that, into that position where let me help you, help their kids get through a certain situation. Right. Ron and I we were all talking just a minute ago, and I just want to shout out to Ron because his son is trying to he's 13 and trying to become he's trying to introduce him into the work world and trying to help him get into, understanding what it's like to work and what it's like, and it obviously means a big commitment on mom and dad to get him to different lawn mowing. They're mowing lawns and put him out there and get him to different places and to get him to, into that kind of thing, and so it means extra time for Ron, time that he probably has to now carve out of other things to load the lawnmower up, get over there, go back and pick him up, make sure the lawnmower starts, make sure he does a good job, help coach him if he's missing things, just all those things. But I think just those little things, you feel like, okay, well, that's just what a dad does, but a lot don't, and I think that's a great shout out to just say, those are the kind of things, just the little things that may not even be recognized, right? Not the go saving a guy out of a minefield, but just the little things that may not be recognized, but, he's helping train his son to be, to understand work ethic, to understand, to do a good job, to understand how to be, how to be a man and how to have a good work, have integrity in the workplace. And then at the cost of, his lawnmower and his stuff and, and getting it loaded and getting it unloaded and all the stuff that goes on with that. Think
about that. You have to charge him a fee for using your mower.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's some really, really good points there. And societally speaking, as a culture, I'm not just dogging on our society, but we're just in general becoming more and more self-centered, more and more driven about what makes us happy. Got to go find yourself and do those kinds of things, and less concerned with doing the kind of thing that helps other people. And at the same time, that's really, I think that's really the call of being a man is, a lot of times you do things that no one's ever going to notice, and you're never going to get any credit. You're never going to get any attention for it. But yet, if you don't do those things, then the consequences of not serving in that role, are almost devastating, right? I mean, like if you're not doing that for your son, not helping him out, you're just saying, go figure it out. Well, he's coming back with like 3 fingers, and it's like he's never mowed a lawn before, but he wants to start a lawn mowing business, and so he's going to go out and the mower's clogged.
Reach down there with
and just some really basic things like that you gain nothing out of except for being a loving father and caring for your son.
Right.
But that's outside the norm.
Yeah. No, I think that I think what's interesting is because like when you become a parent, you're always thinking about like, man, I've got my son or daughter, but I think, I don't know, man to man, it's almost the next level for me at least.
Right.
And you think about this list of things you want your kids to be. You want them to be like smart,
right?
Clean. You want them to be, popular. You want them to, and you could think of a million things, and you could throw a lot of money at it and whatnot. But it always warms my heart the most when I see my son do something that I did. Like I opened the door for my wife to the car, even if she's driving or whatever. And my son started doing that the other day, and I was like, that's cool. Yeah. I was like, I don't really want to do that, but yeah. So I think it's, it's surprising how much they watch you do stuff. And when they start to imitate you, I mean, you really start to think about, well, what else have I done? But it's something else.
Yeah.
It's really warms the heart.
Yeah. That's a big driving force, and why we're doing this is because these are things that are better caught than they are taught. Now we're trying to teach them through a podcast, but really, the reason we're doing this and the reason this is a necessity is because there have been too many generations now where boys haven't had fathers who just lived out that kind of a life where their sons caught it from their fathers. And so now we're having to figure out how to teach it in retrospect and try to make up some ground for that.
Yeah.
Because I brought it up in the job world, but if we're being 100% honest, like being a parent is also a very positional leader, right? Like where all you have to do is find someone of the other sex attractive. You don't have to have any qualities of being a good dad or being a good mom or
there's nothing. No one requires anything of you before you can reproduce.
And so it's that encouraging dads and even moms to just really be the example of what it looks like to be a good man to your kids and to do things like Ron was talking about, to be the example. And
I remember when we were pregnant with our first, Hannah. We were living up in Longview, and for listeners who may not be super familiar with Longview has a reputation, shall we say? It's a place where methamphetamine runs pretty rampant, and it's pretty easy to get your hand on certain drugs and experiences up there. And so we were pregnant, first time parent, just kind of go, like feeling the nerves that come along with that. Like, man, I'm not sure we're ready for this. I mean, you start, going through the process of, getting all the stuff and getting everything ready. And then the closer it gets, the closer you get to the birth, you're like, man, all of a sudden, I'm responsible for another human being. Right? like if they live or die, this is on me, And so then just get to the burden of it. Start like, and there's just like years and years where they're completely dependent on you. And if you don't do your job, it's like they're actually going to die, And so I remember just like feeling overwhelmed with it. And then we were driving in the car one day, and as we were driving, getting close to our house, not just a couple blocks away from our home, there's a 13 or 14-year-old girl pushing a stroller with a kid in it. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if she can do it, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be all right. Like they're off to at least an equal, maybe a little bit better start than that situation. So
you had a car.
Yeah, we had a car. So
the stroller.
Not to diss on people who maybe started in that situation, because there's all kinds of room for redemption and growth, and also lots of mistakes that we have made as parents. But I mean, parenthood is something that just requires service, being there to serve your kids, and just so many unthankful moments as a parent, right? And that's really, really important. I want to maybe shift our focus here a little bit, because we've talked about, just the idea, but why should we be helpful? I mean, what is a real motivate? Because, I mean, yeah, there's the duty of being helpful that we all have to do, but why would we want to be helpful? What would be a motivation? Why would we? No one wants to be.
Nobody knows.
I'm not interested. Yeah. I just do it because I have to. I don't really want to. I think
there's just a sense of, I remember the first real big time that I can really, I mean, I'd been helpful in a lot of smaller ways, but I remember there was a lady at work who was struggling financially. This was one of my first jobs. I think I was 16 or something. And I'd been able to put some money away, and I was pretty good with money or whatever. And there was a lady that was struggling with some bills that she was having or something. And I remember, thinking I need to help her, right? And I pulled her off to the side so it wouldn't embarrass her or whatever. And I think I'd already gone to the bank and got $100 or something. And I just handed the $100 to her, and I said, I just want to help, right? Mm-hmm. I just want to do something. And she cried a little bit and thanked me. And I didn't say anything. I didn't want any recognition from anybody, but just, I remember feeling like that ability to give that to somebody was a better feeling than any gift that I'd ever gotten in my life. Right. I remember walking away going, because it was a hard gift, right? Because $100 for me at that point in time, I was making like $4, $3 an hour.
That's still a lot of money.
Yeah,
and to give that as a 16 or 17-year-old young man, I was like, that was a big chunk of change.
Not to poke fun at your age or anything, but I mean, like, that's still a lot of money. Yeah. So it must have been a huge amount of money. But
right. So but I remember feeling like that feeling of, I don't think I've ever felt this good with anything that I've ever received, has been able to give that money to somebody and really authentically help. She didn't ask for it, right? It was just something I wanted to do. So,
yeah, there's this quote here from Gordon B. Hinckley. The best antidote I know for worry is work. The best cure for weariness is the challenge of helping someone who is even more tired. One of the great ironies of life is this: he or she who serves almost always benefits more than he or she who is served. Mm-hmm. And, I've seen that so many times, in our world here, like in the food pantry. So many of the people that help at the food pantry, volunteer at the food pantry, they do it because how they feel when they're doing it. Like they like the feeling they get out of helping people.
Yeah, I think probably a great example of not necessarily why we help. It's not necessarily, but I think it's that when we are in need, how much it meant to us when somebody helped us. And I throw out the worst example, but like moving. Moving.
Yeah, I've got a truck now, so I'm just waiting for somebody to say, "Hey,
you do? Okay, put you in my phone." No, but yeah, I mean, you help others move, even though you may never move again. But because when you moved, anybody can experience that. Like, what was it like to try to do everything by yourself, or be alone and try to do it? So I think that's a big kind of I don't know. I mean, it probably feeds into like the endorphins or something inside of you of like, man, I helped this person. I'm sure they're, they appreciate it, and you're doing it to pay it forward, I guess. I mean, not to use it. Yeah,
I'll have to do some research on that. You got me curious now. I bet there is some research about. I think I'm just barely remembering something back here. It's not coming to the front of my mind, but I think I did read about that a little bit, about when you serve someone, when you are doing good work, so to speak, how it affects your brain. I'm gonna have to go, because that's a really interesting idea. To nerd out a little bit. If you haven't figured out, I'm not the coolest guy around. Like I like nerdy things. Like, how does the brain work? That's really interesting.
Endorphins. No, it's
interesting. Go look into that.
Yeah. Endorphins. You said endorphins. I'm like, wait a second. There's something there.
Hey, Google this. We'll shut this podcast down. I'm going.
Stop.
Pause it for a second.
Right? But no. Yeah, I really think I think it's true. I think we're wired this way. Like, I really think because people get a reward out of it, if you, and it's a general rule that people feel good when they help other people. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're probably right. I think there's definitely some kind of brain chemical response that we get a reward mentally out of doing that. So now we got to go look it up.
I mean, I think in general too, like you can look at a lot of people's lives, right? Like people that are low off, people that are like well off, people that are in the middle, just general well-being of how happy they are or how they're doing is I think a lot affected by like what they're doing for other people, mm-hmm. right? Like if they're doing everything in their life for just themselves to get ahead and to move forward, a lot of times they don't have anybody, right? They don't have anybody by their side, and they're not generally happy versus people that don't necessarily even have a lot of money, but have a lot of people that they're close with and that they have like a going back and forth, that they do things for each other. Like my dad and his best friend, they don't see each other very often, but they do. They're really good friends, but they're both willing to step out and help the other person when they're in need. And it's just really cool to see that. And it's just that friendship that you can build that way. And it's just the general happiness of life when you have people around you that are willing to help you and you're willing to help them back. And so,
well, yeah, that's a very good point. We, as a society, there are some statistics about this. As a society, the more advanced and technological and all those things we become, the more self-centered we become, mm-hmm. the less happy we become. I mean, so like our happiness index, I think is what it's called. The happiness index in our country is plummeting. It's just going out, and our anxiety is going up through the roof. Like, it's an exponential curve right now. It's just like, it's like they talked about the exponential curve with the pandemic, like just going straight, that's how it is with our anxiety levels. And I don't think it's any coincidence that as we become more and more self-serving and self-centered as a society, we become less and less happy. Yeah. And there's this quote here from Albert Schweitzer: "I don't know what your destiny will be, but I know one thing. The ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve." Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a good why. Like, why would I serve? Why would I try to live a helpful life where I'm helping people out as a consistent part of who I am? Because we get joy that way. Mm-hmm. And, the interesting thing is, our society is obsessed with happiness and joy, and we want to be happy. You got to do what makes you happy. Be happy, you just got to go do those things. If they make you happy, do it. But we never find happiness that way.
It's self-happiness and self-joy that people are seeking and trying for.
Right. But if you want to be happy, then serve others. If you want to find real joy, the thing that I say, we don't find happiness when we pursue it. Happiness is always the fruit of our purpose. When we're living out our purpose, then we start to become actually happy people. But as long as we're chasing happiness, we'll never find it.
Well, I was thinking about, like, you think about the best job you ever worked, it's when you had a good team,
right?
Mm-hmm. It's like when you have, like, as being a nurse, you have, sometimes you could be on a unit that, like, nobody helps. Mm-hmm. People are doing their own thing. Right. They might even not be, they might not be doing anything, but they just don't want to jump in there. But when you have that, that a dream team, mm-hmm. Here come the Avengers kind of thing, where, like, everyone's working together. They see you in need. They come and help. Right. I mean, that's when you love where you're at. I mean, think of a neighborhood that you knew the neighbors and you guys helped each other. And I think it's a very simple thing to do. You don't have to be the smartest man or the strongest man, but you can help and foster an environment that really brings that happiness that you're talking about.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
It's really good.
Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Well, just reminds me, the importance of another future episode. We'll be talking about mission, how men need a mission. And, when we don't have a mission, we end up, aimless and frustrated. But, like when you have a mission and especially when you have a team working towards a mission, like your objective is to care for this person or care for the people as a team, then all of a sudden the mission kind of becomes the unifying thing, and it brings you all together where you're driving towards this thing, and you're helping. You're not looking out for yourself. You're serving one another to complete the objective, right? And so then it just changes how everything works. But if the objective is, I'm just coming in, I'm going to do as little work as I possibly can and get out as soon as I can so I can get back to the life that I want to live, then nobody likes working with that person.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Right.
I was just thinking too, like during a little bit different, but like during the pandemic, we've, the 6 foot separation and all the things. I think that's stripped us a bit of that, hard to be helpful when you can't, you can do things obviously without that. But I mean, like jumping in a lot of times, I love pulling over and helping someone push them off the side of the road, or maybe I can help them get their car running if there's an issue or something, right? But it's, people get nervous about that now, you don't get too close, and so you get that whole, that I think is also kind of contributed to that plummeting or that exponential growth of anxiety that you were talking about in terms of, we've been kind of separated from, well, I would, but
yeah. My life's on the line.
Or sometimes we're just in such a hurry that it's like, I don't have time to stop and help that person push their car. I remember
that too.
There've been a time or two where I've helped, and the kids remember that. It stands out. It's like, it was a couple of years later, we were at the intersection where I helped push, a car out of the intersection, and the kids, I remember you helping, getting out of the car and pushing that car. It's like, yeah, I should probably do that more often. But we're always in such a hurry, It's like, gotta get home, gotta get where we're going.
Yeah.
But
you're like, I want people to be there for me when my car breaks down.
Why is everybody passing me?
Right. Well, we want to encourage men to be helpful. How do you get started? Just help somebody.
Yeah.
Just help somebody. Just start looking for an opportunity to help. If you don't know where to start, a great place would be just, there are service organizations all across the country, all across Clark County and Vancouver. I know there are at least 30 some food pantries in Vancouver and in Clark County. So that's at least 30 opportunities. And there's other organizations that aren't a part of that you can help get involved with serving. Across the nation, service organizations like food pantries are actually very concerned about the aging volunteers that help out. And young people don't step up to help. If they do, they don't last. They only last a couple weeks, and they realize, hey, this is work. I don't want to do this. This sounded fun, but I don't want to do it. And there's a concern. A few years ago, the director here at Clark County Food Bank came back from a national conference, and they said everyone there at this national conference had the same concern. They're worried about the aging population of the volunteers, and so there's a need for younger, like here, on tomorrow morning at our food pantry. We're going to have 6,000 or 7,000 pounds of food delivered, and probably the average age of the people unloading those thousands of pounds of food and stacking them on the shelves back in the food pantry is like 70.
That's the youngsters.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got a 91, 92-year-old man that comes and helps every single. Becky's grandfather. Yeah,
grandfather-in-law. He's a pretty amazing guy.
Yeah, quick shout out to Bill. Shout out to Bill. Shout out to the women. They recorded their first few episodes of the Girl on a Hill podcast, and so men, you're going to have something to send your wives to go listen to here in the near future. But but to kind of wrap things up, just start thinking about how you can help. Looking for opportunities to help. Doesn't have to be something huge. Maybe instead of $100, it's $10 or $5 to help somebody. And we don't carry cash anymore, but maybe just give whatever cash you have to somebody if you come across someone in need, and do that. Any final thoughts on this topic before we start to wrap things up?
That's good.
Yeah. I love the topic. Actually, it's one of those kind of things where I do. I love this topic. Yeah. It's just one of those things where I don't know. It is rewarding, but for whatever reason, it's difficult to do at times. It's like because we fill our lives with so many things that we don't leave any bandwidth for the ability to be helpful. We're either running from our home to work or to whatever events we're going to, or we're so busy that we don't leave any bandwidth, and then it's gonna if we stop and help, we're gonna leave. We're gonna be late for the next thing that we're doing. So I think just that ability to kind of think through that. Is my time because our time is valuable, obviously, but can I leave some of those times, where if I see someone alongside the road, or if I see someone that needs some help, can I, take a minute and, we've done that a few times with a homeless person, where we've just taken them to Taco Bell and gave them some, fed them and, not every time, but just a few times where we've just taken that out of our life and just say, let's just, we can't help everybody, but for whatever reason we felt called or an inclination to help that one person, you know. So just taking that minute to help and do something. So
that's good.
And one of the things we want to do as a podcast is help break down the stereotype of man, that there's no requirement that says you have to be like a meat eater, meat hunter. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because we're going to get into that stuff too for fun, because we know we got guys that like that, and guns. Rylan likes guns and all that kind of stuff, and Paul too, and some other guys. So we're not opposed to those things, but that's not a requirement to be a man. And we know we have guys like myself who are a little more artistic in nature, and we want to include them and encourage them. So trying to find some things like poetry that help with these topics as we come across them. So I want to read a poem here to kind of encapsulate what we've been talking about. It isn't the thing you do, dear. This was written, I didn't write down her name. Just think of it like kind of like grandma reading you this poem. It isn't the thing you do, dear. It's the thing you leave undone that gives you a bit of heartache at the setting of the sun. The tender word forgotten, the letter you did not write, the flowers you did not send, dear, are your haunting ghosts at night. The stone you might have lifted out of a brother's way, the bit of heartsome counsel you were hurried too much to say. The loving touch of the hand, dear, the gentle, winning tone, which you had not time nor thought for, with troubles enough of your own. Those little acts of kindness so easily out of mind, those chances to be angels which poor mortals find, they come in night and silence, each sad, reproachful wraith, when hope is faint and flagging, and a chill has fallen on faith. For life is all too short, dear, and sorrow is all too great, to suffer our slow compassion that tarries until too late. And it isn't the thing you do, dear, it's the thing you leave undone, which gives you a bit of a heartache at the setting of the sun. And that's, I think, especially probably right now, I know especially a lot of probably young people, there's a lot of mental strain and anxiety, and as a result of the pandemic and prior to the pandemic, it was already at a huge increased rate because of cyberbullying, all those kinds of things. But the mental health of young people in our lives is a concern I think we should all be thinking about. And just by offering an encouraging word to somebody, it might just be a passing word of encouragement that is, and it just seems like, well, I don't, should I say that? I don't really know them that well. Yeah. Is it really going to mean anything? But it might be a life-changing thing for someone. So it might be just a simple way to do it. Quick shout out, by the way, Jason Hattrick, hope to have him on the podcast sometime not too distant future. He has a thing called Kindness 911, and they work with Clark County Sheriff's Office and do kindness stings. And they just did a big one this last week, and they gave out a kindness citation to, I thought it was Aiden, but I think it was Aylan, Aylan, and someone who just, I think, kind of stepped up into a difficult situation. Can't remember the exact story, but just a great way to think of it. Looking for opportunities to recognize when somebody's been kind and point that out and recognize.
That's awesome. So
hope to get Jason on here, not too distant future for the podcast. All right, it is time.
For the closing ceremonies.
Nice. So I'd like to have a little fun as we wrap up the podcast. I don't know, give the guys an opportunity to give a shout out to something they're loving, something in their life that they're really appreciating. If you've got anything that you want to, we're going to do this every week, so you got to start thinking of these things.
Yeah.
Okay. I do have my wife's grandfather just recently died. He was 93. He died the way I think a lot of people would prefer to die, but he fell asleep in his chair watching WWE. And then when it was time to go to bed, they couldn't wake him. But talk about an interesting guy. He was an old submarine captain, and he was I hope I got that right. He was, he had his nickname was Smokey because he had a real temper, I guess, was, at least that's what the guys called him. And so we just had his memorial service, and he's pretty much been like the only grandfather type figure I've ever had in my life. And even though he was definitely dated on some of his terms and, his kind of like non-PC.
Right, yeah.
But he always was very, very kind to us. He's always been very generous, with money, time, helping. He was a carpenter as well, and I mean, just an amazing guy. And it was, even though I was glad that he went the way he did, and he had lived a very long life. It was sad to see him go.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
We got a shout out you can give about Luke if you want.
Oh yeah, Luke. Luke, if you're listening to this, we got a free, didn't end up being so free, but a free riding lawnmower for the church that we go to. And last winter, and David and I went and picked that up last year, and we knew it had some issues.
You picked it up. I didn't go with you.
Oh,
you just did it
with me. Okay. I picked it up. Knew it had a few issues, but
that's a good leader right there, by the way. He's always sharing credit, even though he did it all by himself.
But it ended up having a lot more issues than we'd thought. A lot of belts bad, a lot of tires flat, a lot of whatever. And Luke, I mean, he just kind of kept going and going and going at this. Okay, we got that part fixed, and then something else would be broken.
Right.
And then, so just that would be a great shout out to him. Yeah. That was huge. Now we've got a working lawnmower. Now guys don't have to bring their lawnmowers in to mow the property, and we can, maybe get a group of folks and kind of share the load a little bit. But that was just a shout out to him. That was awesome.
Like you bringing in your mower every week.
Every week.
So by the way, I wanted to make sure Russ was on this topic because he's just a great example of being a helpful servant. Just always lived a life of service, and I just really appreciate you. So wanted to honor you for that. And a good example of that is leaving reviews. I asked the guys in our group.
Tried to hide myself in that.
Yeah. I asked the guys, hey, go leave a review on iTunes so it helps other guys look, and Russ was the first one to do it. So here's the first review. If you leave a review on iTunes, we'll read it on the podcast. But Russ BU0369, Russ Bus, he says, I may be biased because I know the guys running this podcast, and I'm on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not every week, but I've really enjoyed the content and banter. The topics are real life issues. I tend to internalize a lot of stuff and just think I need to man up and get over it. The guys thinking through the topics authentically want to talk about this stuff and help me live a more fruitful life. So thanks for that review.
Yeah,
that's
no
good.
Very nice.
So I've got a few fun ones to send us out here. All right. So the I Didn't Think This Through award goes to a woman who discovered that her online date was actually in prison. And so she joined a school trip to the prison so she could visit him.
I did hear a funny one yesterday, actually, on the radio. A DJ was talking about that her, 4 or 5 year old son had ordered $2,600 worth of popsicles from Amazon, and they couldn't return it. So.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah, that's the thing about Alexa. Alexa, order popsicles. That might not be the best idea. All right, here we go. The I Need New Glasses award goes to an elderly couple who raved about this gorgeous pate before they realized that they had been eating cat food.
Oh.
I think you might need some new glasses. Yeah. You hate it when you do that? Is that what you said?
I was like, I know where this is going. Oh, my gosh.
All right, 2 more. The Batting Out of My League award goes to a spider that actually successfully held an anonymous person's mail hostage. Batting out of my league. So this spider was keeping this person from their mail. Here's the note they left to the mailman. They said, "Beholder of parcels, bringer of utility bills, I write to you on this day to ask a simple task of you. Living on the right side of my mailbox is a spider, seemingly holding my mail hostage. If you could remove him for me, either by relocation or brutal murder, I would be forever in your debt."
That is a very official letter.
Yeah. Yeah. So the spider gets the Batting Out of My League award. Consequently, the Snowflake of the Year award goes to the person who wrote the note. All right. Well,
taken a broom and wiped him off.
Right. Yeah. It's not that hard to take care of a spider. I mean, even a big one. Well, that's episode 7 of the Man They Remember podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. We love it. If you'd go leave us a review on iTunes, go like us on Facebook, and join the group. We want to build a community of men, not just talk to you, but we actually want to know you and encourage you and give you an opportunity to help us by encouraging us, like we talked about today. So that's a way to do that through the group, and Facebook.com/Man They Remember is how you do that. ManTheyRemember.com is the website. Like, share, rate, review, and so on and so forth. And that's all the plugs.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for putting that together. Some good stuff. Yeah, be helpful. Find something to be helpful this week. Yeah. Be helpful and come and help us out by sharing. Telling a guy, tell somebody about the podcast, and come back next week.
So simple.
Yeah, it's really simple. just listen to it and tell someone else about it. That's all you have to do.
Strong.
All right, thanks, guys. Good discussion.
Yeah,
nice.
Have a good week.